you have the floor.
Thanks very much, Phil, and I would like to welcome the audience once again. We are grateful that you've chosen to share some of your day with us. We know your time is valuable, and for the next 60 minutes or so, we will make every effort to make every minute count. Once again, our topic today is best practices for mobile customer acquisition. And my name is Michael Sisk. I will be our moderator today. I've been a New York-based journalist for about 15 years, and I've had stints as investor editor at Red Herring and editor-at-large at American Banker. My articles have appeared in Barron's, Crane's New York Business, Inc., Institutional Investor, Strategy in Business and Worth, and I've co-written and edited a couple of books. The most recent was Merge Ahead, Mastering the 5 Enduring Trends of Artful M&A. That's my background. However, much more important is the backgrounds of our two excellent speakers today. I'd like to introduce them both to you now. The first is David O'Connell. He's a senior analyst of wholesale banking at IT Group. David's primary coverage area is analytics technologies, including business intelligence, performance management, and predictive analytics. We're very happy to have David with us, as well as Sarah Clark, VP of Product at Mitek. Sarah directs product strategy and the roadmap for Mitek's mobile imaging platform and suite of products, including Mobile Deposit, its market-leading MySnap SDK, and mobile identity product line. So those are two speakers today. We're very, very fortunate to have them with us. And just before we jump into the real meat of the discussion, I wanted to do a quick little housekeeping, reiterate something that Phil said at the top of the hour. We do have about 10 or 15 minutes set aside for Q&A at the end of the discussion. You do not have to wait until the end to put in your questions or ask your questions. You can do that sort of as the mood strikes you throughout the hour, and we encourage you to do that. If for some reason we don't get your question, if we run out of time, we will follow up. So please, your voice will be heard. Ask anything you would like. We also have two polls today, and I always encourage 100% participation if at all possible. We do share the results with everyone here, and it's kind of a nice baseline. Everyone that's with us today get a sense of where everyone else is on these issues that we've come together to discuss. So. And actually, I think that we will kick off with the first poll, the first of the two polls. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of read through the question, the answers, and if everyone could weigh in, that would be excellent, and then I will share the results with everyone. So the question is, are you currently using mobile for customer acquisition? Yes. Answer is your options are yes, you are, or we plan to in the next 3 months. We plan to in the next 6 months, or we have no plans to. So if everyone could just take a moment and check the appropriate box, that would be wonderful, and then we will be on our way with the rest of the discussion. So let me go ahead. I think we probably had enough time for everyone to do that, so I will share the results with everyone. So yeah, so about 40% said yes, already using mobile for customer acquisition, and about 27.8% we plan to in the next 6 months, and 18% in the next 3 months, and just about 14% having no plans at this point. So thank you so much for those responses. And with that, let me go ahead and push things over to David. David, you have the floor.
Very good. Thanks so much. And thanks, everyone, for attending the webinar today. I know everybody's got crowded calendars and long to-do lists. I'm pleased to be speaking to everyone today about pre-fill technology. I'm an industry analyst, and I'm a lucky gent because I get to look at lots and lots of different technologies. I see many technologies that are interesting, and I see many technologies that deliver value. It's a little less often that I see technologies that are both cool and interesting, but also deliver lots of value, and I think that's the case here. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the role that pre-fill plays in banks' competitive environment and their competitive response, and also the benefits. And that will be followed by a demo from the folks here from Mitek. So the first thing on my mind, you'll see a demo in a few minutes of this capability, and it's worth pondering why is it interesting or important. And I think it's interesting and important because of the competitive environment that banks are in. All right, we all know that there are lots of rival payment systems out there like PayPal, Square Cash, Apple Pay, Level Up. Banks' footprint is really under siege from all directions. Banks are in the business of gathering deposits, redeploying those deposits as loans, and then managing that risk. They're also in the business of delivering lots of services to consumers. And there are now lots of new rivals from outside of the the FI world, giving them a lot of competition. And what's interesting about all the vendors that you'll see there is that they all provide a great customer experience. They all enable Uber-like or Pandora-like ease of use for doing things like exchanging money between you and your local vendors, or you and your friends, or even getting capital for your small business. Now, it's not just sort of anecdotal information that we have that leads us to this conclusion, or headlines that lead us to this conclusion. IT Group is hearing from banks that they are concerned about being sort of under siege from these sources of disintermediation. Every 5 or 6 quarters, we field a really great survey globally of senior IT decision makers in North America, EMEA, and Asia Pac. We ask them lots of new questions, and one thing we do is we get a feel for their heat map of where they're concerned and where they're spending across 52 technologies across the bank landscape. And what we find when we put all this together in a 2x2 matrix, I'm an analyst, so of course there's a 2x2 matrix, we find some interesting things here. Okay, in this 2x2, in the upper right-hand quadrant, are technologies where banks are both dissatisfied with their existing capability and they're most likely to have a planned upward direction of spend. There are 2 types of technologies in this sort of sweet spot in this upper right-hand quadrant. The first has to do with data, managing data so that you can apply analytics such as BI and big data analytics to it. We don't need to talk about that today. What's interesting, though, is also in the upper right-hand quadrant is making improvements to the customer experience. That bubble for improvements to the customer experience is actually representative of 5 or 6 bubbles, because what we have found is that banks are spending money to improve their online and mobile presence in just about every market and with just about every type of customer. So they're improving their online presence for consumers, small businesses, and corporations, and they're also improving their mobile capability for those 3 types of customers as well. And the reason they're doing that is because they know that this is going on out there. Okay, just want to drill down into this data a little bit more. We did a survey of 233 U.S. banks and credit unions recently, and we asked them, what will be. I'm sorry, I'm struggling a little bit because the slide that I'm reading, that I'm speaking to, is a little bit small on my screen. We asked folks, what products and services will your FI most heavily market in 2016? And as you can see there, mobile banking solutions were the second most important category there at 56%. Okay. Now, when it comes to, I want to advance the slide here. When it comes to wondering what they want to do with mobile, what they're doing with mobile is they are focusing on their most core consumer products: bill pay, checking account applications, mortgage applications, and car loan originations. So really, the technology that we're talking about today, okay, using the camera on the consumer's mobile phone to pre-fill lots of data to complete sales and onboarding is top of mind for just about every bank out there. Now, let's think about the capability itself. In a couple of minutes, the folks from MyTech are going to do a demo of pre-fill. And it's a very neat capability, all right? I happen to be a real quant-driven guy. I don't care how cool a technology is. I really want to know what it's going to do for a financial institution should they adopt it. So things that make photo pre-fill kind of cool: deliverable over multiple channels, accessible wherever and whenever a customer wants, and wherever they might have internet access. It also captures semi-structured data and specifically ID documents. Okay. It also, and I think this is kind of important, requires minimal effort of the customer or prospect. They merely have to take a picture of the document, and that's actually that's going to get repeated during this webinar, but I think it's kind of worth it because it's transformational. And why is it important or transformational, as I've just kind of said with seemingly too much import? Well, there are a couple of things that are important. First of all, this capability can reduce friction, okay, not only in the sales process but also in the onboarding process. And when things are complicated in either the sales process or the onboarding process, you've got a real risk of abandonment. And that's the main problem that banks have right now with selling their products, is that because of regulation and the complexity of delivering something like a car loan, they need to gather a great deal of data. And in the process of gathering all that data, there are many opportunities to provide the customer with such a process that's so complex that they actually abandon. The other thing that's important about this capability, again, is it meets prospects' high ease of use expectations. We live in an Uber, iPhone, Pandora world, and the more your capability feels like one of those capabilities, the better you're going to do. Okay? And now I want to talk just a little bit about the different deployment flavors of prefill. There are three. We're going to focus on only two today. First of all, there's mobile web. Okay? Now, mobile web basically has prefill as an extension to a bank's existing online presence. What's interesting about this is that it adds a channel to a bank's mobile presence, and it eases their capture or embrace of the multi-channel shopper, which, let's face it, is just about every shopper. A second flavor of adoption of prefill is native app, and this is where consumers access prefill capabilities by downloading an app to their mobile device. This is interesting to me in two ways. First of all, it enables a branchless bank approach. Any de novo bank can instantly use this capability to have a channel for selling to and onboarding customers for those basic bank products like checking accounts, mortgages, and car loans. Okay? It also enables a traditional bank, or let's say a bricks and mortar bank, to deliver a branchless bank feel over a consumer's mobile phone. For them, if they use the native app flavor, they are interacting with a bricks and mortar bank almost as if it's a branchless bank like Ally. Okay, I'll mention very briefly the third flavor. That's assisted service, and it's when prefill is on the devices held by bank employees, either out at offsite events or in the branch. Now, what's interesting about prefill is that it's one of those capabilities that is available to just about every bank. Okay, there's a real absence of upfront capital requirements. It's not like deploying SAP, ERP, or anything. There is some configuration, not much, and there's some integration, not much required. When you have low upfront costs, it means that just about anybody can adopt it. The other thing that's interesting about it is the ongoing costs are pay-as-you-go. Okay, banks pay for this based on the volume of activity. Now, these might seem like sort of wonky, sort of cash flow analysis type details, but what's really interesting about this is that it means that banks with assets of $5 billion, $50 billion, or $500 billion can adopt this capability. The technology is as size agnostic as phone-based RDC. And I just want to dwell on this a little bit more. You know, the bank world is extremely competitive right now. Small banks have a very difficult time competing against large banks with their huge brands, and also the very large IT capabilities of those large banks. Another issue on my mind is life is getting more difficult for small banks because of regulation. There are things like TILA and RESPA and Dodd-Frank stress testing requirements, which, because of their complexity and requirements of IT departments, they are actually more difficult for small banks than large banks. As a result, small banks are looking for any way they can to scale their operations upward, and I think this is one of those capabilities that enables that. So now I want to talk just a little bit about the benefits of prefill. First flavor I want to talk about is mobile web. It enables banks to add channels and enable folks to buy and onboard over QRF, and it enables photo capture over an online presence. The most important thing to me as an industry analyst is I see it enabling banks to capture the multi-channel shopper. Banks traditionally struggle to have a 360-degree view of not just the customer, but of a particular interaction, okay? One of the things I like about this capability is it enables a bank to capture the customer that works with the branch, transacts over their iPad, maybe also over the call center, and perhaps even with QRF. Basically enables banks to capture the multi-channel shopper, which is a vast majority of shoppers. I was in the fortunate position of being able to interview a couple of bankers that have put pre-fill on their adoption roadmap. One of these folks said, we are already planning to have ad campaigns for credit cards based on Mitek's pre-fill capability. There will be a QR code in print media, and people will just scan the code, take a picture of their license, and type in their annual income. That's all it will take for them to respond to a campaign and start the process. Now, thinking about the benefits of native app. What's interesting about native app is it enables banks to deliver scale where it's been elusive, and it also enables them to automate tasks that seemingly kind of defy virtualization. Okay, one thing I like about pre-fill is when the consumer takes a picture of that ID document, a lot happens that we almost don't appreciate in a demo. Many data points are sort of vacuumed up, so to speak, by the capability and automatically put into a database. That is far more efficient, okay, than a consumer writing those data points down on a piece of paper and then somebody transferring that data into a database. It's also a lot faster than having someone sit for an interview with someone to get all that data point. One of the folks that I spoke to who is planning to adopt this flavor is using it in a virtual bank that targets the underbanked population. And this gentleman said to me, the process of onboarding new customers based on the data the manual provide is extremely labor intensive. But as I watch our beta test of remote onboarding, I see lots of manual application work being automated away. I anticipate being able to grow by more than 15% with the headcount growing at a far lower pace. That means the capability is delivering scale. So I think that's kind of interesting. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is I've been mentioning a couple of times improvements to the customer experience. And as an analyst who's always looking to quantify the benefits of technology, that's always an interesting challenge. How do we quantify the impact of an improved customer experience? Well, actually here, I think it's actually kind of easy. I've done a bit of an analysis here. I've used as an example a small bank, okay? And what I've done is imagined what it would be like if the abandonment rate were reduced, okay? And we were talking about 10,000 onboarding attempts per year, okay? I have, in this example, a credit card, but it could also be a car loan or a HELOC or anything like that. And what the analysis provides is what is the impact of reducing the abandonment rate from 60% to 45%, all right? What happens when we recover those customers and earn those annual fees per card? And not only that, but the spread earned over the cost of funds for each of those accounts. Now, the net benefit that I came up with was a little over $300,000. Not a spectacularly huge number, but again, this is a relatively small bank. And I think was a little bit conservative with the assumptions about the abandonment rate. From what I find, abandonment rates are extremely high, and as I examine the pre-fill capability, I see a very significant reduction in abandonment rate available to banks as a result of the technology. So now that we've talked enough about the technology and what it can do, I want to turn it over to the Mitek folks to do a demo, or we might have our next polling question. I'm not sure which, but I'd like to hand it over now, please.
You should be able to try that, but if you...
Great, thank you, David.
Thank you.
And yeah, so let's go to I think we're going to move on to the next. Sarah, should I go on to the, yes. All right, so let me go right to the polling question. Okay, so as promised, the second of two polling questions. So let's do this poll, and then we'll move on to Sarah's presentation and demonstration. So the question is, how are you meeting your KYC requirements today? And again, we have four potential answers here. Authentication of the driver license, biometric identification, asking customers to leave the mobile channel for verification, or knowledge-based authentication. So if everyone could, a very interesting question. I'm very curious to see what the results are. If everyone could weigh in, that would be wonderful, and I'll just give you just another couple of seconds to do so, and then we'll share results. And I think probably this is enough time for everyone to have contributed, so let me go ahead and show. And yes, so knowledge-based authentication, 45% of you selected that, and 35% authentication of the driver's license. Just 2% are using biometric identification, while 17.6% are asking customers to leave the mobile channel for verification. So thank you very much, and with that, I will turn things over to Sarah. Sarah, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah from MyTech, and I head up product. So I'm going to be giving you some demos of our mobile identity products today and walking through a few potential use cases. But first, I did want to add a bit more color to how we see the market opportunity and to provide some of the insights that we have from the market. I'll be showing our photo fill product, which addresses the pre-fill opportunity that David did such a great job of outlining. And I'll also be showing our Photo Verify product, which gets a little bit deeper into the topic of mobile identity. So I certainly want to set some context before I dive into that. Let's see if I can. Okay. At MyTech, we have 3,700 financial institutions that license our products. And that's mainly fueled by the overwhelming success of mobile deposit, where we have an estimated 50 million end users that use that product through their mobile banking app as part of their regular lives. So what this means is that as a product team at MyTech, we do have the ability to talk to different banks, credit unions, financial institutions, alternative finance providers, in the industry to talk about how mobile capture can solve other key market pain points. So mobile identity is a very hot topic, mobile customer acquisition, mobile account opening. We have a lot of conversations with a lot of different people in the industry about these market issues. So I wanted to provide some of that insight and context for you. So when I think about the state of mobile account opening today and how our products are positioned to add value in the ecosystem, we really look at this in terms of two high-level areas. So the first is what David has covered, and I won't spend a lot of time on it, but it's the process by which the customer inputs their data into the application. And the second is how the financial institution takes that data and verifies that the person is real and that they are who they say they are. So in other words, how the identity proofing is done. So with respect to inputting data, we have had a lot of conversations with banks and others looking at the current customer acquisition funnel. And I would say that based off of these various data points, what I see is that mobile completion rates are about 20% lower than desktop completion rates. So this number obviously varies from bank to bank, financial institution to financial institution, and depends on a variety of factors. But I would say that that's a pretty typical story that we hear in the market. And when you look at this in the context of the fact that mobile as a share of digital account opening transactions has quadrupled in the last year, and when you look at the fact that digital itself continues to grow, this is a really big problem. And it's a problem that's growing, and it's a problem that translates, as David pointed out, into basically dollars that are lost due to those customers not completing and abandoning and going elsewhere. So if you're a bank that has about 100,000 mobile application starts and a fairly typical downstream funnel moving an application from completion to approved to a booked account, and using a pretty standard lifetime value number, that equates to over $2.5 million in lost lifetime value. So it's a big problem, it's a growing problem, and our products can help solve that problem. Identity proofing being the next area. So when the customer does complete the application, how does that get verified in terms of knowing that the person on the other end of the device is who they say they are? So I hear a lot of concern in the market with respect to the data sources that are used to check this. In 2014, there were 783 known data breaches. Of course, not all of those are the size of Target or Anthem, but that's a very large number. So you have real identities where the data is known by the wrong people. So what you know is known. And on the flip side, we also have a problem with synthetic identity fraud that's been growing for years, meaning that there are non-real identity data points floating around the system. At this point, it's estimated that synthetic identity fraud comprises 85% of all identity fraud. So that's also a big problem. So we hear concerns with sort of the underlying ecosystem. Of course, knowledge-based authentication is a very common tool that's currently used to determine that a person on the other end of a device is who they say they are. Probably everyone attending the webinar already knows that that can be a very poor user experience, and especially compounded with a mobile device can in and of itself lead to a lot of abandonment. And looping back to the breaches, kind of the wrong people can answer these questions oftentimes, whereas the right people can't. So, issues with the underlying ecosystem. The other key problem that we see in the market is through the existing identity proofing process, there tends to be a gap with a percentage of applicants that cannot have their identity confirmed to the level of certainty that's required to move the application through the process. So a story that I commonly hear is this is about 10 to 20% of applicants. Sometimes they're just declined. Sometimes there's more of an offline, disconnected process to then have them submit a fax or an email of an identity document. The user experience varies, but generally this is a point that creates a large amount of drop-off. The number can be larger as well, depending on the type of customer you're trying to attract to apply. So I spoke to a lender not very long ago, and they target their lending product specifically towards millennials through digital applications, largely mobile, and they have to say no or decline almost 50% of their applicants because they cannot get to the level of identity certainty that's needed. So I think that's an interesting glimpse into how this gap can affect the younger, the underbanked, which oftentimes are the segments that you want to attract to your product or service. So our Photo Verify product is really a solution that can help with these issues. So what we really want to do is provide a tool that allows you to shift away from relying solely on what you know as a way to verify your applicants to provide a stronger identification mechanism based off of what you have, which is an authentic ID document. And we want to solve this with a better mobile user experience. And all of this can be done, and I'll be showing you the products. So the first product I'll be showing you is Photo Fill. So Photo Fill is all about fast, accurate data. So pre-filling forms, being able to snap a picture of an identity document, and quickly getting that data put into the form. So I'm kind of simplifying the way I'm presenting our products to focus on identity documents. Photo Fill can also be used for other types of documents that may be important as part of the holistic account opening process. The second product is Photo Verify. So Photo Verify is all about validating the authenticity of the identity document. So ensuring that not only is the data read quickly and accurately, but that you can be, as a bank, assured that that customer on the other end of the device is in fact holding an authentic driver's license or state ID that matches the identity that they're trying to enroll with. And these products can be used separately, or they can also be used together. So again, we've spoken to a pretty wide variety of financial institutions about customer acquisition funnels and what they look like. And this is sort of a representation of a typical case. So the before picture shows 80,000 mobile starts, 24,000, which is about 30%, actually completing the application. And then the funnel, of course, continues through approval and on to booked. So when you look at the impact that Photo Fill can have to the funnel, you're moving from that 24,000 completed to 40,000 completed. This is going from 30% to 50%, bringing mobile up to at least parity with desktop, and the actual results we would expect to even become better. Photo Verify helps for a customer that's completed an app, and it helps you say yes to more good customers. So if a customer completes an app and you need that identity certainty, knowing that they're holding an authentic ID document and being able to get that strong result instantly can help move that applicant seamlessly through the process so that they can be approved more quickly. And now I'm going to get into the demos. So let me go ahead and get my phone started. These are live demos. So it'll take me 1 second to show my device. Oops. Is it showing? There we go. Okay, so you guys should now be able to see my phone. I'm using an iPhone. And the first use case that I'm going to show you is going to be a native app. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. And I'm going to start with a combined use case. So here you can imagine maybe, as David mentioned, I'm a branchless bank, or I'm a financial institution that wants to offer an account opening process through a native user experience. So I've purposely set the demos up to not have a lot of flow or deep visuals surrounding our products, because I want you guys to be able to imagine how our products can fit into your app. So here I'm just showing a very simple instructional screen that tells the user that they should scan both the back and the front of their driver's license. So I'm going to go ahead and click Continue, and I'm going to enter the user experience. And here I'm able to scan the back of my license, and that happened very quickly. And now I'm brought to our MySnap experience, which has me scanning the front of the license. And here I'm given a result. So the result tells me two things. So the first result I'm looking at says, congratulations, your document's authenticity has been verified. That result is coming from our Photo Verify product. So when I scanned the front of the license as the end user, what our product did was it looked for an ideal image, and when it found it, it actually scanned the front of the license for the presence of an enhanced security feature. So driver's licenses have become quite complex, especially since 9/11, and there's a variety of security features that can be included on the license. Some of them you can see with your, with the naked eye. What we scan for is the presence of an enhanced security feature that's embedded into the license format as part of the printing process, but which is invisible to the naked eye. When Photo Verify finds the security feature and decrypts the data that's embedded within it, it can provide you an assured authenticity result. So what this means is that as a bank, when you receive a result saying that document has been verified, it means that you can be 100% certain that that user is holding an authentic driver's license, and you can continue them instantly through whatever the rest of your workflow needs to be. The second set of results that I'm showing are the data that was taken off of the license. I did not use my real license for this demo, but I did use a real Massachusetts license. So you can see that the data that was on the license has all been returned as well. So most likely this data would be used to pre-populate a form, and the customer might be prompted to include other information. Again, I'm not showing kind of the app workflow. I'm showing the data and the results that are returned by our products to your app, which could then be used to improve your mobile user experience and drive the rest of your onboarding process. So that's a combined Photo Verify and Photo Fill use case through a native app. I'm going to now go back to my device menu, and I'm going to show you Photo Fill through mobile web. So I know that many of you would like to ensure that customers who find your mobile website, which I'm going to go to Google and go to a mobile website we've put together for my bank. So I know many of you have invested in mobile websites to showcase your products for customers or for would-be customers, and it obviously everyone wants customers to then be able to seamlessly go through an application process. So that's what I'm going to show you next. I'm on a mobile website. I see a credit card that I'm interested in, and I can click Apply Now. And from a user experience viewpoint, that can give me an option to either fill out a long form, which is tedious and a big hassle, and I don't want to do that, or I can snap a photo of my driver's license. So I'm going to obviously choose that, and this is going to show you our mobile web user experience. So there are technology differences between native and mobile web. So the user experience is slightly different. I'm going to go ahead and launch the camera and choose Take Photo. And in this case, I am going to use the back of my real driver's license. So I can go ahead and snap a picture. And I'm going to choose to use the photo. So from a user experience standpoint, I did snap the picture, which is different from what you saw in native, where that was done for me. But despite that being the difference in the user experience, we have embedded various computer vision elements into the SDK, which assured that when I snapped the picture, the MyTech mobile web SDK takes that picture that I captured and enhances it, resizes it, verifies the image quality analytics, and then extracts the data. So there's a lot of technology layered into that very simple user experience that ensures that I get fast and accurate data through mobile web. So I'm going to go ahead and click Continue, and the rest of your workflow would take place, but the point is that your customers can have a lot of data pre-filled from a single picture, which can lead them to being approved more quickly. So that's mobile web. I'm going to set up for one more demo. Let's see. Bear with me for one quick second. Okay. Okay. So the third use case that I want to show you, we've been really focused on onboarding during this webinar. Photo Verify, I think, is interesting for other use cases. So it's a great tool to validate that someone signing up that you don't know is who they say they are. But it's also a really interesting tool for high-risk transactions. So imagine a customer, an existing customer, wants to initiate a money transfer or wants to associate a credit card to a mobile wallet. Photo Verify can be a user experience that will help add a second factor of authentication to those high-risk transactions and can offer a very easy user experience. So in this case, it says your money transfer is pending. I can have that continue in real time simply by scanning my driver's license, so I'll go ahead and do that. You can see I got a real-time message telling me to get closer to the license. So this can tell you that your customer, Gloria Ortiz, is in fact the person attempting to initiate that high-risk transaction, because you now know that in addition to knowing her password, the person also does definitely have an authentic driver's license for that identity. So that can help instantly clear any block for that customer to accomplish the high-risk transaction. So that's the last demo that I have. Go ahead and stop the screen sharing. Okay. Should I? All right, so we're back to the slideshow. That wraps up the demo. So really quickly, we see the future of mobile identification. I outlined a lot of issues with the current ecosystem. So we see the future as being simple, to having tools so that you can shift to effective what you have mechanisms to check for identity. We also see a future of multiple factors being enabled, which goes outside the scope of this webinar, but lots of interesting additive things on our product roadmap. And, of course, we see a future with biometrics fueling authentication. And we believe our products are part of that ecosystem because we see a market that's shifting to ensuring the front door is really well secured. So strong identification sets the framework to be able to accept a biometric and to improve authentication going forward. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah. And we've got about 8 minutes or so until the top of the hour, and there's a lot of great questions that everyone in the audience is putting through, so thank you so much for that. So what I'll do here is I'll read out the questions, and Sarah and David just, jump in and, answer, both of you answer, or just one of you take it however you'd like to do it.
Sure.
Excellent. So first question, would a passport work for identification?
So I guess I can jump in and take that question. I focused very much on U.S. driver's license for the purposes of keeping the demo simple and not to get into too many weeds of all the details. But at MyTech, we do support international documents. So we recently acquired a company called ID Checker. So we now have a very strong global footprint, and we support not only passports, but over 3,500 international identity documents.
Oh, okay, great. Let's see, next question. So they're asking, a fake ID would be rejected by you.
I think I can answer that in one word, which is yes.
Yeah.
So to elaborate a bit more, we do use for different types of identity documents have different types of security features. So going back to focusing on driver's licenses, we do use the strongest mechanism to check for authenticity that's available, and that is this enhanced security feature that is part of the format when printing, but which is invisible to the naked eye. If a document is tampered with in any way, that would be rejected. And the security feature is so strong that it would be virtually impossible, or it is impossible, for someone who's generating even high-quality fakes to replicate it. It's invisible. It contains encrypted data. So, yes, a fake ID would be rejected.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. All right. Now let's see. Next question. So the question is, are there any institutions utilizing the tool in LAC?
Hi, this is David. I'm not quite sure what's meant by that acronym, but I'll assume folks are wondering if it's being used in a live production environment. Folks are using it. They have not gone live fully for their entire customer base, but they have gone live with customer subsets. And the success rate is high enough that it's inevitable that they'll go across their entire footprint. Sarah, maybe you could opine on some betas or live deployments since I did my research.
So yes, we do have customers who are live with the driver's license scanning capabilities specifically for photo fill. So we're seeing some nice results in the market. Photo Verify is an early product, so we're working on a beta program now, and we're certainly open to having more participants in that. But we do have live customers today with photo fill.
Excellent. Thank you both. All right. Next question. Are images of driver's licenses processed on the phone?
So I guess I can answer that. And security is a guiding paradigm, of course, for our products. We work daily with banks, and we're very acutely aware of the various security concerns. So the SDKs that we offer do analyze images on the device in memory, but we do not store images on the device. In general, our products have a lot of configurability, and beyond the device, the storing of the image in general is something that's really up to the policy of the financial institution. We know some like to have those enhanced MyTech images for downstream KYC purposes, and we know some would rather not have the image persist at all ever. So those options all exist within the product suite.
Excellent, thank you. Next question, can these solutions be configured for our brand?
So the answer to that is yes. I showed a very vanilla user interface when presenting the demos. We intentionally had very sort of minimal branding, but our SDKs allow every visual element to be configured so that the photo user experience can fit seamlessly within the native app or the mobile web app for the bank or financial institution. So there's actually quite a lot of visual flexibility while keeping the core user experience.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And let me see here, another question. What is the implementation time frame for PhotoFill for mobile web? David,
did you want to take that, or would you like me to?
No, it's a fairly brief deployment, much briefer than a lot of the deployments I've looked at. I want to opine to Sarah on that, but pretty brief compared to the other value delivering capabilities banks are working with these days.
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process. You know, of course, this answer will vary based off of the bank, but the way that it works is there's an SDK, so there's iOS, Android, or mobile web SDK, and as we just discussed, there's various types of configuration options. So there's a spectrum from being very turnkey to highly customized. So part of how long it will take depends on sort of where on the spectrum the bank wants to go. But there's an SDK that can be dropped into the native or mobile web app, and then there's some basic server APIs. So generally, you know, it's something that can be implemented in a week. You know, typically it does take longer, but it's a pretty simple process.
Great, thank you both. And that actually takes us right to the top of the hour, and I think we should, in respect for everyone's time, we always like to sort of bring these things in on schedule. So let me thank David and Sarah both. It's been a wonderful 60 minutes of discussion and demos, and there's been lots of great questions. So clearly the topic is really resonating with our audience. And let me thank the audience, of course, for being here. You make it worthwhile. We would not want to do it without you. And thank you for participating in the polls and all your great questions. There were a couple questions we didn't get to today, so like I said, there will be a follow-up afterwards. So please, you know, as I said, fear not, your voice will be heard. And also, everyone that's with us today, please keep an eye out for an email. We'll send something to you probably in the next 24 to 48 hours with a link to the recording so that you can listen to it in the future if you want to review any portion of this. So please do so. We encourage you to. And with that, I'll wrap it up. Wish everyone a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope you'll join us again here very soon. Thanks so much.